Reactionary Musings, Doctor Who, and the Curse of Fatal Indifference. Hello and welcome to another video. Now this week I wanted to talk about, my general ennui with Doctor Who in particular, but also wider pop culture in general at the moment. I don't know whether it's all just crap or whether I'm just getting to that age where I just can't relate to the kids anymore. Probably a bit of both, I suspect. But I'm just kind of... I've said several times on this channel that I'm just out of the pop culture scene. I have no idea what's going on half the time. People ramble on about TV shows I've never heard of, mostly because they're on fucking streaming services that I can't get and couldn't afford or really want even if I had. There's loads of these actors that other people seem to know that I have never seen before. I mean, I watched, Megan the other day, and somebody was going. I saw someone on YouTube going, "Oh, it's the lead actress from this or this." And I'm like, I've never seen this person before. What in my entire fucking life? Who are these people? I've no idea. In terms of Doctor Who, of course, I would say my current state of apathy and indifference, kind of started with the revival show in the mid-2000s. I liked it at first. By the second season, I was already getting increasingly dubious, increasingly finding it difficult to recognize the lead character as being the same, and finding the modern series itself rather vapid and shallow and not really feeling much like the show that I grew up with and fell in love with. And to be fair, it wasn't, because from day one, and I know this will upset certain people, but from day one, the modern series was a reboot. They really had no intention. They wanted the older fan base, certainly at the start, because they knew the older fan base would also bring their kids to watch it. So they didn't want to go in there going, "Oh no, it's a complete reboot and completely unrelated," because obviously, 90% of old fandom would have gone, "Oh, fuck off," from day one. But the reality is, they had no intention of making Doctor Who the way it should have been made, in my opinion, or the way it was made for 26 years. It was always for the modern audience. And honestly, I'm not part of the modern audience. I perked up a little during the early Moffat era. I liked his Doctor more. I liked his companions generally more, especially Amy. Even the Moffat era was filled with typical modern crapola, gender swapping nonsense, and all of the rest of it. And by the time you got to 2017, I was just of the opinion that the whole thing was a complete joke. Really, Jodie Whittaker is the same person as William Hartnell used to be. Really, yeah. I'm sorry. No, it was kind of on the thin end of the suspension of disbelief that Eccleston and Tennant's versions had anything to do with the original character. By the time you get to Piss Taker, it's like, really, no. And I pretty much gave up. I just, that was it. That was it for me. No, I wasn't one of these YouTubers that watched something I didn't like and just in order to slag it off every week. I said my piece in 2017, and that was basically it for 5 years. And of course, as it turned out, a lot of other people felt the same way, and the Jodie Whittaker era was an utter failure on every regard, regardless of the desperate spin that the BBC and certain elements of fandom desperately want to try and pretend that it wasn't. No, it was. It was shit. Everybody knew it, and by the end, even the general public knew it, dude. Her last season was the lowest rated season of Doctor Who ever. Those last few specials, apart from Power, which obviously had the Tennant and Regeneration impact. But those last couple of non-Tennant cameo specials, yikes, the lowest rated episodes of all time. So I wasn't alone, as it turned out, in my apathy. Of course, we in recent years, it was probably about 2 years ago now, isn't it? I can't remember. It seems to have been a bloody ages. We got the news that they were Whittaker and Chinballs were finally effing off, and Davis was coming back. a lot of fandom kind of reacted with "ooh, shrieking joy" as someone who didn't think much of the Davis era to begin with, and kind of thought it was the beginning of the end. In my opinion, everything wrong with the Jodie Whittaker era, it started with the Davis era. It may have gotten worse, and it metastasized into being fatal in the Whittaker era, but all that shit really started with the Davis era to begin with. I'm sorry. He paved the way for all this crap. So I was kind of, moderately pleased that an independent production company were taking over, or one with a good track record and reputation. Maybe we can get it remotely resembling television, at least. Maybe not classic Doctor Who, but moderately entertaining TV. I don't know. I was not thrilled with Tennant and Tate coming back. I'm still holding out hope we're going to get more than that. The Beep the Meep stuff was amusing. But again, in recent times, my eyes have just been rolling back in my head with some stuff, Apparently half the cast is transsexual now. We had that absolutely absurdly ridiculous Doomsday trailer with some non-actress who seemed to think she was presenting a play school or something, jumping around, claiming to be the universe's deadliest assassin. I mean, against a patently awful CGI background that was so fake, the 90s blushed. I mean, really? And then, of course, recently we had a drag queen's the new big bad or something. Really? Okay. And it was a massive star, we're told, because who, what, never heard of this person, what? As it turned out, Davis is mates with the guy's husband or something. Nepotism at work again. Well, that explains that anyway. It all just, I'm not really all that interested, I have to be honest. We found out that Murray Gold's coming back again because old Rusty's just full of new ideas, as we can tell. I just don't care, I have to be honest. I was getting moderately kind of excited for the 60th last year, mainly thanks to some rumours that may or may not be true now. I have to be honest. I when it comes to New Who, my indifference level is really high at the moment, and honestly, it's even kind of having an effect on Classic Who. It's weird. Sometimes I get really enthusiastic again, and then other times the whole thing just seems, I don't know. Again, as with last year, I haven't really watched much of Who in general at all this year so far. I don't know. And this malaise, this indifference and apathy, it's not just Doctor Who, it's wider pop culture as a whole. I mean, apparently there may or may not be a writer's strike coming up in America. I remember the last time this happened was 2007, I think. And although I would consider that 2007 was past the golden age, certainly my personal golden age of, at least of American TV, which I would say was 90s, probably through to about 2004. But there were still some shows that I actually watched and cared about, and you were like, oh God, I hope they're not going to be affected too badly, like 24 and Lost and Dexter. You're kind of like, I hope they're not going to be affected too badly. This time I don't give a fuck. There is literally nothing I watch coming out of the US these days anymore. It's like it's dead. You get the occasional streaming thing that's about 6 episodes, and maybe you'll get another season 5 years from now when everyone's stopped caring anyway. The last proper ongoing American show I watched was Elementary, which was great, and that finished in 2019. That's 4 years ago now, and there has been nothing since. So my attitude to a writer's strike is, well, maybe they'll hire some decent ones now, because I'm sorry, I really could give an F. And all the franchises are in this state. Well, they're all in the same state. Star Wars is a fucking joke. I mean, not that I'm a Star Wars fan. I liked it when I was a kid. I'm still aware of it enough to be kind of disgusted by the fact that the thing seems to be run by an incompetent, glorified secretary feminazi whose main goal seems to be to run down the previous male heroes and replace them with a woman because, I don't know, penis envy or something. Star Trek. I like Star Trek, old Star Trek. I've not watched any of the modern shit. I watched about 15 minutes of the first episode of Discovery when it was, because it was on Netflix when I got Netflix in late 2021. I didn't think much to it, and all the reviews. Ugh. I watched about an episode and a half of Lower Decks. It was okay for what it was, but what it was kind of a childish kids show cartoon, so I wasn't really very interested. And the rest of it just looks like complete fucking garbage, you know. I am aware that the last season of Picard has been getting very good reviews, and it does look pretty good. It looks like a you know, what modern Trek kind of should have been in a way. But again, most people think it's an aberration, and it's just going to go back to the same old ridiculous crap that doesn't really look like Star Trek anymore. I will probably pick up season 3 of Picard when it comes out. I don't have Paramount Plus. I don't think I can even get it. And I don't really want another streaming service. Paying for Netflix and YouTube Premium every month is enough. Thank you very much. But aside from that, again, Star Trek, I really couldn't care less. And movies. Movies are so lame at the moment. Even when it's something that kind of gets good reviews, and you think, okay, I'll rent it. It's usually passable at best. That's when I don't turn it off thinking it's complete crap. I'm really bored with the modern pop culture scene. There are times when I just feel like kind of cutting the cord altogether, you know, like just say 2020. Just say it ends at 2020 and just forget everything else. Just don't bother, because what's come out? Okay, you've got a couple of Korean shows. I did like All of Us Are Dead and Happiness. It's a far cry from the fucking glory days of the 90s, when there was literally something on TV that I really, really wanted to watch every night. Pretty much every night of the week. It was hard to find a night to spare to like watch a VHS of a movie or whatever, because there was so much on freaking TV. Wow, glory days they were. We did not know when we were well off, because there's bugger all on now. Anyway, that's just my thoughts for the week, I guess. I don't get it. I don't get what's, you know, I know. And I know with the culture war and the woke tards and all the rest of it, it's like, can't you make anything fucking good anymore? Why are you pandering to like 0.3% of the populace and telling everybody else to fuck off? Are you insane? Or what is wrong with you? What's happened to all the competent writers? I mean, again, it's not even just the message. It's the fact that most of them can't write to save their fucking lives. They can't write plots, they can't write stories, they can't write characters, and boy, can they not write dialogue. What's happened to talent, dude? And I'm sure there must be some talent still out there. They're just not getting hired by any of the major studios. Probably not lefty enough or something, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just thoroughly baffled by all of it. I honestly never thought I would see the day when I just don't care about Doctor Who. I don't care about modern movies. I don't care about modern TV, because there's absolutely nothing worth caring about, because it's all fucking crap. It's a sad state of affairs. And I don't really see the end in sight, which is it's kind of sad, you know, because again, I feel this channel kind of growing ever more niche. I mean, it's already pretty fucking niche, but I feel it growing ever more niche as all this, you know, because I've no interest in watching this stuff. And I've certainly no interest in hate watching stuff that's crap just to bash it and keep up with the current zeitgeist. I just can't be arsed. It's boring. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure what the point of this video is. These are just the thoughts that have been percolating around my excuse for a brain the last few weeks. Just this kind of sadness at how thoroughly apathetic and indifferent I've become to pop culture. I'm not even angry. I'm just bored and indifferent and apathetic. And I've just got no interest in it. And I very much doubt that RTD2 is going to be the beginning of the turnaround. I very much doubt it. Oh, well, I'm sorry if I didn't mean to depress everybody, but there you go. I hope you enjoyed my confessional, whatever you want to call it. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye for now.